Texas finds a way to get it done, escaping in Houston. Final score, Texas 31, Houston 24. There's a lot to unpack within this game. I think personally this was just a horrible spot for Texas. Oklahoma had a similar situation with UCF, except Texas had to go on the road and play Houston. There's a lot to unpack with this one. Like I just said, some good, some bad. First things first, there's no bad wins. Another thing that goes with first things first is make sure you subscribe to the On The YouTube channel. College football every single day right here on the Hard Count. We're live 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. To stay up with all the content we got going on right here, best way to do that outside of subscribing to the channel is following me on Twitter as well as on Instagram. We appreciate y'all in advance for doing that. So you watch the beginning of this game and Texas starts fast, man. Like, you were so encouraged to see the quick start, so encouraged to see the lack of, the Red River hangover. Okay, we used the bye week the right way. Yeah, it's a road game, no worries. 21-zip, Texas is rolling. The thing that's discouraging, though, is there was some take the eye off the ball kind of plays early in this one that made it the game that it was. Busted coverage, give Houston some life with that touchdown. Kind of felt like Texas started to press a little bit. The fake field goal felt a little bit weird. Far be it for me to question play calling, but that felt weird. Call on 4th and 2 felt a little bit weird. Again, I'm sure they had their reasons. I'm sure they repped it in practice, felt good about it. But it just felt a little bit like if you were Texas, you were pressing in that situation to get things back on track. And I'm sitting here saying, if I'm Texas, I'm fine to just play my B-, B+ game and be okay to roll and get out of there with the win. So ultimately, found a way to get it done. Also, Houston, as much as that logo leaves something to be desired, it wasn't one that you walk out there and say, okay, we got Houston today, boys. Better bring your A game. Wasn't that kind of vibe. Still a gritty Houston team. A team that took down West Virginia actually last week, if I remember correctly. So the fan base overall sentiment, I would imagine today in Austin, you feel probably a mix of things. One is a little bit disappointed. Like, man, it took a touchdown to beat Houston on the road after what we've shown from how hard we fought in Red River and we got the bye week, and then how we played Alabama in week 2 and the talent we have on this roster. Texas, that Alabama game obviously is a tremendous snapshot, but they have taken steps since then, I think, and even gotten better since that game. But they were dinged up in this game yesterday. And we'll talk about Quinn Ewers and his whole situation in a second. But the feeling is it's just disappointing because you think about Texas of old and you think about not finishing second halves and not showing up in games you're supposed to show up in and playing down your level of competition. So this felt a little bit, disappointing in that sense, and also a little bit of PTSD of oh no, hey, I don't want to go back to those days of Texas. I don't want to go back to those kind of games that we have to relive on Saturdays. Don't take us back there. And to be real, I don't think that they're going back there. I don't think this was a step backwards. Was it pretty? No. 2 things to consider. Not excuses, but things to consider. One, like I said, Texas dinged up, especially in the secondary, and that was all the plays the majority rather of plays that Houston got that gave them life, was attacking that secondary that was not at full force. Also, arguably, the most vulnerable spot schedule-wise for Texas they will have this entire season. We prefaced it a little bit. You played Red River. Emotionally drained. Whether you won Red River or not, this was a tricky spot. You get the bye week to try and flush it, try and hit the reset button a little bit, but that's still tough because you get out of the bye week, and it wasn't a bye week that you get out of and it's okay, great, we have a revenge game against Texas Tech, or we have Kansas State, or someone that's really kind of lighting the fire. It's we got Houston. We got Houston out of the bye week. And they also had to go on the road and play Houston. So all those factors working against them. Even so, though, something to be said for winning a football game when it is clearly not your day. And the majority of college football teams will have a game like this, and it looks different for different teams. But the best teams in the country find a way to win when it's not their day. And yesterday was not Texas's day. The big question is, does your worst day or the day that's not your day during the season cost you a loss? And it didn't for Texas. So there's no such thing as a bad win. We say that a lot here on Tell the Truth Sunday, and this is no exception. Houston now also not a G5 opponent, conference opponent for the 1 year that it is. The biggest concern, I think, coming away from this game, and it has to be for all Texas Longhorn fans, is I think the Quinn Ewers situation. It's Sunday morning when we're recording this, so by the time you see this video, there might be more information available. All I've heard is what Steve Sarkisian said post-game, where he said Quinn's got a shoulder injury. We didn't feel comfortable about him going back in the game, so it is what it is. We feel good about the guys that we got in the house to go forward, whether it's Malik or Arch, whatever it ends up being. I don't want to speculate on the Quinn Ewers situation because we just don't know anything right now. He was in a sling. That's not a great sign. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not a doctor. I know that's surprising to some of y'all that are watching, but no, in fact, I did not get any medical degree. So I want to say this, though. The Quinn Ewers situation is not encouraging by any stretch of the imagination that happened. Whoever's in charge of roster retention at Texas, whether it's Steve Sarkisian, whether it's some other power that be within Texas or Austin, whatever, they deserve a parking spot for the rest of the year. Because we talked a lot about Malik Murphy and the conversation around what he did in that spring football game and the statement he made, because he'd been dinged up since he'd been in Austin and hadn't really been himself just yet, and came in as a highly touted recruit, and you weren't sure what you were going to get from him. And then he just goes out and really was the story of the spring game. And so with him being the story of the spring game, yeah, Texas saw that and the fans saw that, but every other school in the country saw that. And his name got thrown out there a lot when it came to the transfer portal quarterback carousel. I have to imagine there were some other schools. I'm speculating here. I don't know this. I have to imagine there were some other schools that would have loved to have Malik Murphy on their roster. Good news for Texas. He's on your roster. You kept him in Austin. I don't know how you did it, but you kept him in Austin. And the fact that Quinn Ewers is now, his status at least is at the very least, time of us recording this on Sunday morning, is up in the air. You feel okay about what you have in that room with Malik Murphy and Arch Manning both being there. So keeping him there for a situation like this is exactly why you kept him there. Huge. Absolutely huge. Now going forward, it feels like we keep peeling back layers of this Texas culture, which is ironic because that is exactly what has been in question over the last couple of years. And we're peeling back the layers with different circumstances. First, it was how do they handle success? They beat Alabama. Are they going to trip up before Red River? They get to Red River. Okay, they lost that game. How do they handle that loss? How do they handle the bye week? How are they going to handle the injury of their quarterback? I will say this, though. Championship teams, they have a major sense of urgency coming off of a game like Texas just had. Kind of a down game. You're not happy with how you played. You watch the film back. You feel kind of sick to your stomach. You're happy you won the football game, but you're like, man, that is not us. That is not our brand of ball we want to put on tape. Championship teams, they respond to that. They say, that's not okay. That's not the standard. We're not happy with that. As a locker room, we're going to go get better. Now, on top of that, I think championship teams, whenever they have someone on their roster go down, they do a great job with the sum of the parts doing more all around that operation to elevate the team. So what I'm saying is, with Quinn Ewers being out of the lineup, potentially, again, I don't know that to be true. If he is out of the lineup, if he misses any time at all, you would hope that Texas, the culture they have in place and the roster they have in place, will be in a position to where everybody else is like, hey, if we don't have our guy, I can take on a little bit extra on my back. I can do a little bit more to get us to where we want to go. And I'll also say, if Malik Murphy's your quarterback, if he ends up being the guy for Texas going forward for at least a couple of games, I don't think they change the offense too much. Maybe you do some things to ease him into the game. You probably have a fair amount of running the football involved there as well, because Texas has just been known to do that, and they probably can do that going forward in these next couple of games. But I think they're still going to try and sling it around the yard. So there's still that burden on the rest of these playmakers to continue to evolve and step up their game as we move on throughout the rest of the season. So going forward for Texas, you got BYU, you got K-State as the next two, both of those games in Austin. I think that's critical, especially if it is Quinn Ewers or if it's Malik Murphy. You have a chance to kind of be in-house and kind of keep a game day routine the same and be as comfortable as possible, not having to go on the road whether you're playing with Quinn Ewers, who's trying to get back to healthy, or with Malik Murphy, who's trying to get settled in as the guy. Like, I just think that elite teams find a way. Elite teams find a way, and they don't flinch. And I think that's what we saw Texas do against Houston, even with this game coming down to the last drive for Houston. It's ugly, man. There's no way to put lipstick on a pig. It's ugly. The defense made enough plays at the end there to get it done, even though they were dinged up. Offense found a way to score enough points, even though they didn't necessarily play their best game either. You found a way. So the microcosm of this Houston game is the mission now for Texas going forward with the rest of their schedule. Don't flinch. You got Quinn Ewers, you don't have Quinn Ewers. Don't flinch. Doesn't matter who's playing quarterback, doesn't matter where you're playing, doesn't matter who you're playing. Find a way, survive in advance, scratch, claw, bite, whatever you got to do to get it done, you do exactly that. And Texas did that yesterday against Houston. Keep on moving, control their own destiny. Keep on charging towards Jerry World. Keep on swinging, baby. So, we're going to keep an eye on this. We'll keep on talking about the situation as we get more out there about the Quinn Ewers situation. We'll, of course, talk about it on this channel, so subscribe. Also, follow me on the social channels at Jody Pickell on Twitter and on Instagram. I'll have my thoughts for you there. But, man, we love y'all. We appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.